Hello people of the internet, welcome to Paint to Life, episode 17. This is the YouTube channel where I take tiny plastic miniatures, throw some acrylic paint on them, and breathe life into them through storytelling so that you might learn something new on the subject, or perhaps take them to use them on your own campaign. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're a returning visitor, welcome back. I'm Atank, let's get painting. Alright, last week we painted a bronze dragon. That was Kalina, Lady of the Blue. If you missed that episode, you can catch it right here in the link above if your device supports it. I strongly suggest you check it out, since I think it's performing better on Rotten Tomatoes than the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Today I'm going to be customizing and painting a special friend of mine to commemorate a recent anniversary. You see, it was early July 2000. I was hanging out at my best friend's house. We'd been drinking a little bit. It was maybe 2:30 in the morning when we heard this terrible, guttural, animalistic roar from the forest behind his house. I've never to this day heard anything like it, and I still don't know what it was because we didn't check it out, because we were playing Diablo 2, which had just launched on PC, and we were feverishly lapping up its goodness. You see, June 29th, 2020, that just passed, was the 20th anniversary of the release of Diablo 2, which, just about 4 short years after the original had launched, is arguably one of the most successful game franchises of all time and created an entirely new genre of video games that still to this day coins terms like Diablo, clone, etc. For those of you watching over the age of 55 or under the age of 10, you might not know what Diablo is, but I'm sure the rest of you do. So please, stay a while and listen. Diablo is an action role-playing game based in a dark fantasy setting created by Blizzard North and released by Blizzard Entertainment in December of 1996. The system requirements at the time for Diablo were Windows PC that had Windows 95, a 60 megahertz Pentium, and at least 8 megabytes of RAM. Can you imagine that? This picture of Diablo right here is bigger than that. I mean, I had just turned 16, and I remember sitting down with Diablo when it first came out for like 3 straight days. I blocked the windows of my basement bedroom with pillows so absolutely no light could come in. I put headphones on for the completely immersive experience, and I was hooked. The Diablo franchise is highly replayable due to the fact that it has randomized monsters, items, levels, and as such, no 2 playthroughs are exactly the same. The story of Diablo is based on the eternal conflict between the high heavens and the burning hells. Very similar to what we see in the Forgotten Realms and other Dungeons & Dragons settings. The primeval, known as the Lord of Terror, one of 3, is awakened from his Soulstone prison underneath the town of Tristram and brings terror to the populace. It had addictive gameplay, a grim, dark atmosphere, and Wirt, the peg-legged boy who would always screw you over on the outside of town. Diablo, as I mentioned, spawned a sequel, Diablo 2, 4 years later approximately in 2000. Diablo 3 came out in May of 2012, a full 12 years later. They're working on Diablo 4, but I'll probably be dead before I can play it. But none of them lived up or was earth-shattering as that cold, hard original. That one dared to be dark. That one made our wrists numb due to millions of left clicks. And that one took our innocence and ground it into hamburger.
Fresh meat.
So what is the story of Diablo? Well, there was this conquering hero known as Leoric who established himself as the king of the Condurus, a kingdom on the western continent in the world of Sanctuary. The corrupt Archbishop Lazarus was among his entourage, and under his guidance he made sure that King Leoric made the town of Tristram, with its long-standing cathedral, his seat of power. Not long after their arrival, the essence of Diablo, one of the 3 primevals, having previously been trapped in a Soulstone and buried by the Herodrum centuries ago, awoke under Tristram. Through nightmares, Diablo guided Lazarus through the catacombs beneath the cathedral. In his terror, Lazarus raced through the abandoned hallways until at last he came to the chamber of Diablo's Soulstone. No longer in control of his body or spirit, Lazarus uttered words long forgotten to mortal men, raised Diablo's Soulstone high above his head, and slammed it down hard into the ground, cracking it. A weakened Diablo once again came into the realm of men. And women. And women. Lazarus needed to find his master a subject that he might possess, and King Leoric was their target. Unfortunately, after 4 years of constant possession attempts, Diablo had only managed to drive the king into madness. Increasingly paranoid and erratic, King Leoric started executing citizens for the most menial of things. His wife tried to bring sense back to the man through love and compassion, and was thusly accused of being a traitor by Lazarus and summarily beheaded by her husband. He became known around the land as the Black King. Lazarus began to grow concerned with his failings to deliver Diablo a host, and people around him were starting to get suspicious as well. So he convinced his delusional king that the kingdom of Westmarch was planning an attack on Honduras. King Leoric ordered his army march on Westmarch despite being woefully unprepared and outnumbered. With the majority of his soldiers gone, Lazarus was now free to continue with Diablo's evil plot. In the dead of night, he kidnapped Leoric's young son Albrecht as an alternate vessel for his master. The poor boy was no match for the will of the great evil, and once the crimson soul shard pierced his skull, his body was possessed. His mental terror was so great that boundaries between sanctuary, the world, and hell were broken, allowing demons to begin flooding into the hellgates deep underneath Tristram. Lazarus returned to the surface and claimed to have found Albrecht. He rallied the villagers and led them into the bowels of the cathedral, where they were mercilessly annihilated by the demons within. He would not ever again return to the surface world. Lacdannen was a man of great renown, who Leoric brought with him into Honduras, and he served the land with justice and honor. He was also captain of the army. The war had been a disaster. The royal army had been summarily defeated. Lacdannen gathered those who hadn't been captured or killed in order to retreat back to the safety of Honduras. They returned to find the town of Tristram in shambles. Prince Albrecht had gone missing. Leoric had taken to executing random civilians, blaming them for his disappearance. As Lacdannen and his survivors went to confront their king, Leoric sent his few remaining guards against them, believing that Lacdannen was somehow a part of a townsfolk conspiracy. He decreed that he and his party would have to die. Lacdannen, finally realizing that Leoric was beyond salvation, ordered his men to defend themselves. The ensuing battle carried them all the way down into the halls of the Tristram Cathedral. Lacdannen won a bittersweet victory as his men were forced to kill all of Leoric's devoted protectors. They cornered the ravenous king in his own sanctuary and begged him to explain all the atrocities he had committed. Leoric only spat at them, cursed them for being traitors against both the crown and the light. Lacdannen walked towards the mad king, sorrowfully drawing his sword. Full of grief and rage, all honor having been cast to the winds, Lacdannen ran his blade through Leoric's shriveled, blackened heart. Lacdannen, the original Kingslayer. As Lacdannen and his knights laid Leoric to rest in a burial chamber, they looked on in horror as he rose in the form of the Skeleton King. His knights were overcome instantly, but he fought on, but it was to no avail. The unholy form of Leoric overtook him and condemned Lacdannen and the others to eternal damnation. All was not lost, though, however. Several heroes traveled to Tristram, hearing rumors of a corrupting evil, vast riches, and arcane magic. Deckard Cain, schoolmaster, storyteller, and the last of the Horadrim, the ancient order responsible for entrapping Diablo in the Soulstone centuries ago, was one of the few remaining survivors of Tristram. He would welcome the traveling heroes. These were the original player characters in Diablo, either the warrior, the sorcerer, or the rogue. The warrior was none other than Aiden, Leoric's oldest son, returned to Tristram after hearing rumors of his family's descent into madness. With the support of the remaining townspeople, the other two adventurers, Aiden entered the cathedral, descending floor by floor, wiping out all sorts of unholy beasts. Deeper into the monastery, he encountered and destroyed his father, the Skeleton King. Subsequently, after finding and presenting the Staff of Lazarus to Deckard Cain, came the cold realization of the going-on since the beginning. Aiden would then find Lazarus, guarded by countless demons, and destroy them all. Finally, Deckard Cain would explain to the adventurers the source of all evil resided beneath the cathedral. Diablo, Lord of Terror, one of the three prime evils. He must be stopped. Aiden, the rogue, and the sorcerer all made it to the entrance of Diablo's lair, a form of hell itself, where each suffered immense trauma while fighting off waves of demons. Eventually, however, Aiden alone was successful in defeating Diablo. After striking the killing blow, Aiden removed the Soulstone out of Diablo's massive forehead, and then watched the monster crumble into dust, revealing his young brother with a gaping hole in his skull as he took his last dying breath. Aiden thought the only way to keep the evil that still resided in this Soulstone at bay would be for him to keep Diablo under control for all time. So he plunged the stone into his goddamn forehead with a sickening crunch. I still need therapy. After returning to Tristram, the town inhabitants celebrated, but Aiden had returned a much changed man, haunted by Diablo's essence. The narrator tells us that, although fortified by your quest, you can still hear him fighting to regain control. Aiden departed Tristram to the east for answers to his nightmares. And unfortunately, Diablo 2 will show us that this was Diablo's plan all along. Sow enough chaos and destruction to attract champions to you so that you might take an even stronger host. Thus is the cunning and wickedness of the primeval Diablo, Lord of Terror. Alright, what did you think of my tribute to Diablo this week? Here he is, Soulstone and all, for the shelf. Next week we're back to dragon territory with the last of the metallic dragons, the silver dragon. So make sure you come back next Saturday to check that video out. Also, I release episodes of Paint to Life every Saturday, and the subsequent painting video, which plays up here during the episode, can be found released on Tuesday if you want to follow along with my commentary about how I did certain things or chose to do certain things. This summer might be the summer. Head down to your friendly local gaming store, pick up a brush, pick up a few paints, grab one of the hundreds of minis they have there, and just give it a whack. You might find it's the most fun you've ever had. You might hate it, in which case, just, move on. Also, I created a new playlist this week on Paint to Life for specific things. It's not so much an episode or a painting of a model, but in the case in point here, it's the barrel that I made for Diablo. I also made a barrel like that for episode with Arbogast, the Defiled. So if you want to watch that, that's going to be releasing on Sunday. It'll just kind of be a little tutorial video, short and sweet, about how to make those little cool barrels that I've made for these miniature videos. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, share. You can go to painttolife.com and check out my Instagram page, my blog, as well as all the videos that are also on YouTube. Let me know in the comments below if you did like Diablo or Diablo 2, if you have any cool stories about playing it yourself. And otherwise, guys, we'll see you next week. Wash your hands, people. The corrupt Archbishop,